Good morning, dolls, and welcome to Little Gretchen's workshop. So now that my windows are dry and solid, I need to add what I call the inner frame. It's the portion of the window that I create around the base frame to hold the glass in place before I secure it. I'm just doing a little sanding, making sure everything is flat and smooth before I go on to this part. Now, when I create this inner frame, I use the thinnest coffee stir sticks and I line them up along the edge of the main part of the frame of the window. And I add a very thin bead of glue right along that edge and then position the coffee stir stick right on the outer edge of the main window frame. Now, I do use my granite blocks to stabilize it or to keep it square while it's drying. And I add it to both sides. Now you want the two sides to be the longer ones and then the two that go the top and bottom to be shorter and fit between the two to create a really solid structure. Now again, I want to remind you these are non-opening windows, but they're going to look like they open based on the way that I'm designing them. Now after you get the top and bottom and both ends cut and positioned, you're going to need to allow that to dry. Now you may need to do some slight adjustments before you allow it to sit aside and dry, and you actually may even need to clean up any extra or oozing glue. So while that's drying, let's get to the fun part, which is sizing the glass. Now, dolls, if you remember in one of my previous videos, I will leave a link in the description. I bought this really nice thin acetate from Minimum World. Now, you can definitely use the acetate, which is the packaging plastic and that comes in a lot of food items, but I really wanted to try out these acetate sheets. Now, this is a little bit thicker than the plastic on food packaging, but it is easy to cut. I realized it was really super clear, a little bit heavier, and really looks like glass, and the film makes it easy to handle. So I didn't remove the film because I was still trying to size it, and I realized that I cut it too small, which I feel a little bit frustrated because now I've wasted a piece. Well, I actually haven't wasted it. I'll just have to use it on another project. So now I have to actually measure to make sure it's the right size. So a word to the wise, practice accurate measuring and you'll have less waste. Now after I scored my area that I measured off, I went ahead and just used my electrical scissors to trim it and cut it out. And it worked out. It was a little bit bigger. The cut wasn't perfect, but it was the right size where I had a little bit of tension on the sizing, where it was a nice, neat fit inside my window frame. And I was really pleased with that. Now, I have not removed the film because I don't want to remove the film until I've actually stained the windows and ready to actually install them in the house. Now, while all the inner frames on the windows are drying, I went on to make sure I cleaned up all of these openings so I wouldn't have any hindrances when I begin to install my windows. If you remember in the previous video, which I will leave a link in the description, I had some parts of the inside of the windows that were blocking me from actually setting the windows in. And if you look here, all those little bits and pieces that didn't come out when I originally ripped out the old windows. So make sure you do that to completely remove any remnants of the old window frame. And here are my windows. They are sitting in their actual spaces. They're not framed out with the outer frame, but they're sitting really nicely inside the window openings. So I just want to show you here what I did to remove the previous window frame. Now I had to do quite a bit of prying here because it was glued in and it was painted over. So I used several different tools, probably didn't use them the right way. Main reason I believe I didn't use the right way because I broke like 5 or 6 of my Swan Morton blades trying to clean this up. I must say this is a very tedious job because I had 9 windows. And when I originally removed some of the windows when I first got the house, I was quite aggressive, but I'm really glad I was because it actually saved me some time on those couple windows because I ended up having to do the very same thing. Now you see here I have to get between the actual wall of the house and this trim that they added in, and that's what was keeping my windows from fitting properly. At one point I thought that I had missed sized the windows, but it was because of this old frame. So I'm kind of prying it up here with my saw, which is the improper use of that saw blade. So dolls, don't misuse your tools, because then they won't be any good for what you really need them for. But I have a tendency to use my little saws in a lot of weird ways. But in the end, it worked out. My window fit into the opening, and I was very pleased because now I know that everything is going to fit nice and neat and properly when I'm ready to install my windows. Now, dolls, although my window is sitting really nicely inside the opening, I realized I didn't like that bottom part of the window. It was the part that originally, that particular window, these are the side windows, this is the part that the window box was sitting on, and it's kind of thick and it kind of jets out away from the house, and I decided that that needed to be removed. So here is the portion when I actually removed that. Now you have to be very careful again with the wood is old, but it's really thick, and yeah, I ended up doing a couple different things to get it off because it wasn't coming off easily. Again, I'm improperly using my wire cutters to pry it off. Again, this is not standard operating procedure, but dolls, it's what I did. So I'm just showing you I had to do a couple things to get it off because, again, it wasn't coming off easily. The wood on those areas were kind of thick, so it just was a little bit more challenging than regular. Make sure when you're using your wire cutters or any type of pinch tools that you don't get your fingers pinched or the skin pinched, or keep your nails out of the way. In this instance, you see I don't have on any of my nails because the work I was doing was pretty rugged. But in the end, I was able to get it down to the raw wood, so I'll be able to sand it off and put a new frame around that part to make it look nice and neat. Now, guys, I just wanted to pop back over to my work table just to let you see the windows, how they look. And I just wanted to be clear that I'm using the smallest coffee stir stick. These are not the birchwood sticks. These are the ones that are extra long. The ones I'm using are the teeny weeny ones. They're really, really small. And here are my windows. That would be a nice window, 3 across. I may have to do a project with that style. So I just wanted to let you see what the windows look like. They're all inside the inner frames. The glass is cut. They're sitting inside the windows. And I'm really excited about getting to this phase of the dress shop. Making all those wonderful accessories really inspired me. And now that the windows are in, I'm really starting to see the new life come into this little property. Now, dolls, I know that this video is supposed to be about the windows, but I guess this is a window of a sort. This is the window in the front door that I've chosen. Many of you mentioned that I should put a glass door for the dress shop, and I thought that was a great idea. And the funny part was I had one in stock. So I decided to go ahead and swap out that original door. Although it's cute, it looks kind of primitive and really very juvenile. So I went ahead to go on the inside and remove it. I really never liked the big hinges. I thought they were kind of out of scale and unrealistic. And I think that was something about it that bothered me. It made the house look like a toy rather than a collectible property. So I removed the whole door, and I'm removed the frame as well. And it was a similar process as what I had to do for the windows. And in the process, I had to get a little bit aggressive with the door frame because it didn't want to come out easily. And so I do apologize for the shaking camera. But in the end, I prevailed. I did have to be very careful because I found that there were nails in the door frame as well. So you always have to look out for little things like that, dolls, when you're restoring an old dollhouse. I've run into several different types of glues and adhesives, nails and things like that. So always be very, very careful, again, when you're working with any type of project, but especially when you're working with an old dollhouse or a dollhouse renovation. Wow, I really left a mess for the dolls to have to clean up, didn't I? So after a little struggle and several cups of coffee, I completely removed the inside of the door frame and the header on the door. And that was definitely a piece that had to be removed to allow for the new door to be installed. All of that had to go. So I hope you dolls can see in the process a few small changes like that can really give an old dollhouse a new look. New windows and new doors make a huge difference. Now this is just a glance at the house, and I want to show you what it looks like with the new door in. So there's my new door. I pushed it in. It looks nice and neat. And close it up. So I'm going to need to paint and stain it to prepare it. And I will talk to you dolls about the colors I've chosen in another video, but I'm feeling very good about the way that looks. It really gives the front of the house a lift. So let me go ahead and pop those windows back in and just give you dolls a glance of it with the windows all prepped and the new windows just sitting inside the frames. I don't know, dolls, but little things like this make me excited because they allow me to see my progress so far. I love before and afters. Now, dolls, if you've enjoyed this video today, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Little Gretchen's Workshop. Bye-bye now, dolls.